All right, ladies and gents, welcome to the final series in Group D for these two players. As it stands right now, Repard needs a 3-0 to survive. He absolutely has to get a 3-0. Nili, if he gets 3-0'd, is out. But otherwise, Nili is at the very least safe, even if he just gets one win here in this series. Other important thing is if Nili gets 2 wins or 3 wins, he then goes into 3rd place, which puts him into the playoffs against the 2nd place player in Group C. We don't even know who that's going to be yet. But that's kind of the situation for these two. There is still one more series waiting in Group D, and that is going to be a big one between Kasva and FedEx, who are both tied at 4 wins right now. But Nili's 2-1 victory over Kasva was massive in this group, and I know it's coming in here feeling a whole lot less pressure because of it. So, Nili going for the Japanese here on Costa Mountain. And I don't think Nili himself created the map, but I think one of his events, actually, that he'd hosted years ago was one of the first ones to introduce Costa Mountain. So I'm sure he's always been a fan of this. And you should have a really good outlook on how to play it. Thus far, though, hasn't really gone for a ton of wood. But there he's doing it now. That's kind of what you expect here. The thing about this map is you do have the water aspect, and this new build that players have been going for, even with civs other than the Japanese, has been take food underneath your TC, build your TC right away, right? Take food, but then use these straggler trees to make 2 fishing ships, minimum. Sometimes you see more than that, but 2 fishing ships should be up and running. I think Nili was just late on wood, honestly, which is a little bit weird. Nili's scouting around the coast right now. Actually, seems like he maybe even found an extra sheep. He's scouting around here. He is scouting like crazy. And he's up against the Mongols. And I think the Mongols will dominate this matchup if this game is close in Castle Age going forward. So I think Nili will try and be aggressive on land here. You normally would think Japanese, good water civilization. But yeah, I think what Nili's hoping for is that Repard chooses to try and get a big edge on water with galleys, because that's big investment, and then he can come on land. Now, guys, it was like 4 weeks ago now, and it wasn't a series I was able to cover because I was in Australia. But even though I was on vacation, I was paying attention to all the games. I was watching the games, trying to see what strategies were happening. It was on my mind, all right? And Nili against FedEx, I think it was his first week. Forgive me if I'm wrong. It might have been the 2nd round. He had gone Malians, and he went forward. He went like militia, man-at-arms, early aggression. He basically tries to punish the wood. And if I had to guess, just based on the start and based on the matchup, I think that is probably the best thing for Nili to attempt here. Is you just can't sit back and boom up to late game with the Japanese versus the Mongols. The Mongols can destroy the Japanese with their options. And so I think Repard, he's either thinking one of 2 things. He's thinking like some players, oh my god, I got to get to water fast. But I personally would just like to see him go land here. Like, it's just a couple fishing ships. I've talked about it before. There's not that much fish here. What matters the most is everything else. And you've got Hunt, you're Mongols. I think the best approach for someone like Repard would be to go for scouts. But he's not going to do it. And I don't know, maybe these people need to start sending me messages. Say, T90, what strats do you think are good? I'm sure I would lead many people astray, but right now he's showing me he is going to go for water. Let's see what Nili does. Is Nili going to try and compete on water himself? Nili going to bring in this boar and, or rhino, I guess, if we're being accurate. Seems to be fine. And Nili's on his way to the next stage. So right now, it seems like Nili might pull this villager off the shorefish and think about a 2nd dock. We are not actually seeing Repard pull this villager to go for a 2nd dock. So the 2 villagers on gold makes me think it'll be minimal investment in water, which I like a lot more. He could go fire galleys. Hard to kill Japanese fishing ships that way. But no, he's going to go galleys. And he's just going to drop the 2nd dock there. So this is full commitment from water for Repard, which again has been fairly common. This dock wasn't up in time to be able to produce right away, but he's going to have a nice little production edge on his opponent there. Look at res collected. So far, res collected much higher for the Mongol player, as you would expect with the food, and that should continue. Nili still just 1 dock. Nili adding a barracks. And my stream PC is trying to restart to do a Windows update. No, stop it. God, man. Sorry, guys. Saved. We're good. Not ruined. Nili scouted this. He hasn't actually looked to see if there's any villagers on gold. When he scouted this earlier, he didn't see 2 dogs. So there might be a little bit of confusion from him. I do think Repard, even though he's up against Japanese, should end up killing these fishing ships in time. First game of the series, right? Nili wants to play low-risk Age of Empires today, and he's going to wall there. He's going to wall here as well. And the first attack in this game begins. And Nili even going to try and repair his fishing ship. Now, this map meta is a lot different if you start with a scout instead of the camel. But the camel just gives you vision. It cannot attack. So, I don't know what the camel really does here for Repard at the moment. But it's kind of funny to see it just watching everything peacefully. And this should give Nili an opportunity to maybe shift his focus more on land. He's really going to commit here, but he did get housed pretty badly, guys. His TC's idle, his dock is idle. He's not placed another house here. Oh my god, house right up against the TC. Okay, so, I mean, he needed production. Alright, Japanese fish, just taking some shots. They're not fishing right now, though. And like we said, I felt like, at the very least, Nili was going to lose his fishing ships. Nili's going to lose all 3 fishing ships. Very well played from Repard. And Repard actually should end up... I don't know. Is Nili's not doing damage here? I don't know what was happening. It didn't look like Nili's fire was doing anything, but... Nili should just give up water control completely here. Now, the important thing for Repard, you've invested a lot of wood into the water now. So I think the important thing here is that you get your walls down on land, and he's going to do that. I've seen instances where players don't do that. And I also think the camel, which is still around, I think this camel now should be looking to see, does Nili have any military buildings? I guarantee you guys, when we get into Platinum, which is just like a week away now, or a week and a half, I don't know, something like that, you're going to see the players use this camel to scout these things. And I've noticed that with gold, like, at least on Coast to Mountain, where I feel like it's so critical. We just haven't seen it as frequently. Because you can make, you know, they're essentially hoping that the opponent doesn't send army in, but I think you can make much better decisions, more informed decisions, if you have that scouting. Nili has the cheap mills with the Japanese and needs to replace it there so we can take some hunt. And Nili is, like, never going to get to Castle Age at this point. It really doesn't look like he was confident in taking some of this additional hunt. He really committed towards water, but also didn't... He only had 1 dock. Repard, Market, Blacksmith. He even sells his stone so we can click up quickly to the next stage. I like this from Nili, though. He's been using the Spearman to kill extra hunt. It bothers me so much that Repard doesn't know that Nili is sending archers forward. Nili's scouting has been really good. He's like looking. He's like, okay, he doesn't have a barracks. He's gone Market, Blacksmith. I think I have an opportunity here. So this window for Nili, he could actually chip away. Maybe get some damage done here. So I really like the scouting. Here we go. Repard trying to snag this rhino. And Nili trying to block it. And Repard still paying attention. It's pretty comical. But that is good work from both players there. It's important Repard gets this underneath the TC. Because he really doesn't have a ton of food income on land at the moment. But he does have 5 fishing ships. And whether or not that's super efficient or not, Nili doesn't have that. And, you know, this could be nervous times for Nili if he loses this first game. Repard is going to drop the stable now. Nili could have gone this direction with his archers and his spearmen. He did scout there were walls, but he chose to go here instead. Possibly wasting a little bit of time. And honestly, like maybe 1 or 2 step lancers from Repard ends up clearing all this. And Nili still less than 100 food in the bank. I want to check res collected again. It is just, man, Mongols are so good on this map. I think Mongols should always be on the ban list. That's another thing. Platinum players are never going to allow themselves to be up against Mongols. Not on this map. I could be wrong. I think the first week or 2 is where some of the Platinum players will learn. I've been talking to some Platinum players right now. Just like, remember what happened in Platinum Season 2. You had players who were promoted be like, okay, the first 2 weeks, I can kill some big names because they're probably not practicing. So there are some individuals that are practicing quite a bit. So again, the stakes are high here. If Nili gets 3-0'd, he's out. And then Repard stays alive. Repard using this camel to just distract. Nili should not pay much attention to this at all. And Repard, just some quick house walls here just to buy himself a couple moments here for those step lancers to arrive. And I think he might lose a villager here. Nili does have fletching, but here come the step lancers, and Nili probably expected something. And the spearmen are going to get poked down. One villager goes down. The archers, they're going to go down as well to this. And Repard is living the dream as far as aggression is concerned now. All these step lancers from 2 stables are able to run forward. Nili has quite a few exposed villagers outside of his walls still. I think this is probably the time to start bringing them home. Otherwise, if he gets the villagers behind those walls, he should be safe. Step lancers are quick, though. Repard didn't really scout much, so he doesn't know this is already walled, which means... And he also hasn't even scouted the hunt. So Nili's actually able to get this rhino underneath the TC. Until Nili's probably thinking, what can I do right now? And as he tries to make a house wall there, the step lancers are going to see her. And she's doomed. And also, there is still a gap. I mean, some players would run right by this TC and have no issues with it. And still fishing ships for Repard, and I'm loving his position. The thing that I was curious on was, would he buy the stone back to invest into the long term here and go for another TC? And he's doing that. 10 fishing ships, I feel, is probably a little bit excessive. I do think you really need to think about farms right now. But, you know, 10 fishing ships is 10 more than what Nili has. And is there a hole here? Because if there is, these step lancers, they might be able to break through. This could be a disaster start for Nili. Oh! Nili gets the house down. Villager could still get picked off, though. Yeah, Nili moved it slightly. So I talked about this before. I really like the step lancer, and I like their more meta. I do not think it's good that you can stack 12 of them on 2 tiles. There was only 6. But the fact that you can do that makes it very possible for you to snowball these attacks and get into some really tight spaces. Nili thinking about what to make here. Again, it's because you could... Well, this isn't so much the stacking, but the step lancers almost making their way through again. And they are through. No! This is so bad for Nili. Oh, what a nightmare. Unless he can kind of keep them penned in here. But a lot of work has to be put into stopping these things from getting through. And I feel like any balance that Nili would have wanted is not exactly there right now economically. The idle time's twice as high. The eco count's 15 behind. Repard is going to be on 3 TCs. I even love this TC. He's dropped this TC to the on the stone area, which is what you'll want as Mongols. I think as long as Repard chills, I think this should be a very easy first game. He's looked really clean. Like, remember I mentioned Horse Collar and the farming? He's starting to do that. He's got tons of it now. This is a massacre. And a massacre that might make Nili think, like, man, my opponent really came to play today. And he will know the possibility is there that he could be knocked out. It would be a dramatic finish. For Nili to beat Kaz, then get 3-0'd here would be nuts. I still do feel like Nili's home map migration is going to bring a win for him. He's a really good migration player. Or at least he should be. His styles should be. Second TC now for Nili. And pikemen for Japanese. Excellent against the step lancers. Obviously, they're very slow, though. Couple archers here from Nili. Were these archers that he had left over? I guess so. And Nili's defended with the pikes. And he's going to now counterattack with some knights. Which I'm not sure Repard's aware of. Eco difference, though, is ridiculous. 62 to 39. Keep in mind, of course, 11 of that's fishing ships. But working inefficiently or not, they are still bringing in food and working. Not to mention, the farm difference is probably insane, too. Like, we're looking at soon 25 farms. Yeah, 25 farms right now for Repard. Here come the knights from Nili, though. And he's got them in different areas, which is really nice. Because Repard's still micro-nerding here. I don't think Repard notices. He definitely did notice on the gold. He has some monks somewhere. And yeah, here comes one of those monks. A nice counter damage there from Nili, forcing some idle time from Repard. And Nili hoping to get more damage than that, though, I'm sure. Repard needs to send these villagers back to work. There he goes. Villagers back to work. Monks aren't getting relics, though, because they had to be aware of these knights. So that's really good stuff for Nili. And then, of course, Repard's busy with that, so he loses his step lancers. Also really good for Nili. So now, the resources collected, 4k ahead for Repard. And if the roles were reversed and it was Japanese that collected 4k more, I'm saying Mongol late game is really hard to stop. If the Mongol player can still hold on and get to the late game, they have a chance. Japanese late game, it's not bad, but against Mongols, it doesn't feel like they just have the tools. No one really has the tools to stop a massive army of elite Mangudai in combination with Hussars. I should say very few civilizations do. Repard recognized that Nili's knights could be annoying, and so he wanted to stonewall this up. Good one from Nili to end up finding his way through anyways, as he kills another villager. Nili, I think, will bring a villager forward. That's the only reason that's being built. Still trying to micro. That should be a conversion for Repard. Monk was still moving towards the target, but Nili just hoping to get something more out of this attack. He'll kill the monk, with the knight. And he lures this army away, which is pretty good. If the siege workshop was up right now, this very moment, I would say this has potential for Nili. The problem is the stone's already there for Repard, which brings us back to the town center timing. That was so crucial. And he's now going to build that castle, and you cannot go siege push anymore in this position if a castle's up. And Mangudai killed so many things, but they also have a bonus against siege. Nili saw the castle was going up and probably realizing this timing has just not been good for me. And I'm sure he probably feels like he's doomed here, right? The score says it. The matchup says it, but you haven't lost the game yet. Repard hasn't come over here to kill you, so I think you just have to, try and deep breath it. Think, let's give a good effort here. The goal for me is going to be to get wins in the next 2 games. Feels very over, but it adds some lovely, tasty drama. When Nili looked like he's in such a comfortable position, odds-wise, probability-wise, before the series began. Sheesh. Okay, down goes the villager. Repard now pushing forward. Just still massing Mangudai at home. Doesn't matter how bad it is for Nili, he's always going to be getting relics. He loves his relics. He has to go defensive siege workshop now. And Imp is on the way now for Repard, who has played really clean in his transitions. His opening was quite strong. It beat the Japanese on water. He then walled up. He had lots of hunts. Like, I remember I expressed my annoyance with the double dock play, right? But he won water, like, right away, right? I think I really don't like the water play if you're investing into it too long term. No, he dominated it, and then he never got pressured on land. Like, I guess that's technically incorrect. He lost a villager, but he was ready. And it wasn't, like, all-in attack either. He's now at economy, town center positions, and just everything has looked really smooth for him. This is a little surprising. In a closer game, going forward castle with Mongols can be a little awkward, right? Because you don't necessarily want to be losing your castles. You want to be using your castles to produce Mangudai. But also, this castle goes up and he makes a trap, then both these Nili's TCs can be ranged. And Repard now, Bloodlines coming in for the Mangudai and Step Lancers. Bodcanero in. That Mangudai will be spotted, and that Mangudai will go down in 2 volleys because it's Mangudai. And I think Nili taps out even before he sees Imp. Like, I think he sees this castle and maybe he resigns. Nah, maybe he waits till Imp. I don't know. You should still fight, probably. First series of the day. Get your fingers warmed up. Settle your mind a little bit. I feel like it's a lot easier to settle your mind in a game you feel you've already lost than in the lobby right before the next game. Okay. Mangudai see the monks. Mangudai kill the monks. Mangudai will kill everything here, but one Mangudai had to die. Repard's confidence probably boosted right now, and yep, Nili calls the GG. 5 seconds before Imp. That was all Repard. And so, Repard could save himself if he does that 2 more times. And then subsequently send Nili back down to silver and crashing out of gold. So, you know, it makes me think like how happy Nili must be that he won that crazy series against Kazva yesterday 2-1, because Repard's no joke. Repard is here for a reason. Well played from him. Wins the first game. Repard's up to 4 wins in total now throughout the group stage, but he needs to mathematically, to survive, he needs to get to 6. Because if he were to end up only at 5, he would lose out on a spot to Nili, and then he would also lose out on a spot to either Kazva or FedEx, who still have to play, as they are both tied at 4 right now. All right, folks. So here we have Nili's home map. If Nili isn't able to get the win here, drama llama time, baby. Drama llama time. It's going to be wild. So I'm a little conflicted because I love drama as a caster, but I'm good friends with Nili, you know? So I'm very torn right now, but let's just wish them both some luck. Nili, with his #1 pick here on his home map, at least hoping to secure himself survival here. If he gets 1 win over the next 2 games, he is safe. If he wins 2, he is then in the playoffs in 3rd place. Should be interesting. Repard needs the next 2 games to be victories, otherwise he's relegated. But if he does win the next 2 games, which would be a possibility for him, he's very strong, then he goes into 4th place, stays alive in gold for the next season. Now, Italians are just so freaking smooth on this map. They really are. Like, they're my go-to, maybe right after the Japanese for migration. I think Japanese Dark Age is a bit smoother than Italians, but cheaper fishing ships, cheaper dock technologies. It's cheaper to go up to the next stage, cheaper university technologies. And there's like, they just feel like anytime is a hybrid map, anytime it's a water map, everything flows. Like, you're always making use of a bonus. The Malay, they advance faster to the next stage. Their docks have given them more vision. And those are the main things that are really relevant for them. But, you know, they do also have harbors later, so their docks become little arrow shooting stations, as well as docks, which I just don't think that's going to have an effect, but that's something. I really do feel like the biggest bonus, the most relevant bonus to the Malay here is advancing faster to the next stage, especially with Repard, what he did in the previous game, right? He was able to use timings. So there was a build I saw, because we haven't actually seen Malay a lot on this map. This deer is completely trolling Repard right now. He's blocked it in now. Okay. So we haven't seen Malay that much. We've seen a lot of Japanese. We've seen Byzantines. We've seen Italians. Portuguese. A bit more. But I remember Sito played this map against Dragonstar. And he went fast galleys. He made 3 galleys. And then he made fishing ships after that. Whereas normally you're seeing fast castle with like 10 fishing ships into fires. And if it is a galley opening for Repard, and he wants to go early, and he goes this way, this is a short journey to get to Nili's fishing ships. Now, Nili will probably have another dock over here. This can happen on migration, guys. Typically, if Nili's here, you're going to have Repard over here. But, like, this is a very short journey, and I'm concerned for Nili, because I think fast castle's the play for him. I don't think you should try and go fast feudal against the Malay. I think that would be too complicated. I really do feel like Repard's gonna go for some galley action here. And, like, the thing is, you want your fishing ships to bring you enough food to get to castle, and then make your first couple of villagers out of your second TC, at the minimum. If you lose all your fishing ships before you can get the work alley upgrade, before you can produce out of the second TC, like, it becomes a big investment to then have to farm. You have to fight back on water, right? But then you need to spend all this wood to farm as well. It's really tricky. If Nili gets 3-0'd, will FedEx be safe? Well, Nili and FedEx are tied, right? So if Nili gets 3-0'd, whoever wins the FedEx Kazva series goes to the playoffs, so goes to 3rd place. And whoever loses that series goes to 6th place. Which is wild. Which is just wild. That, like, one play all 3 would determine, you know, who goes 3rd or who goes 6th. Obviously, 5th and 6th are basically the same, right? It's relegation, but still, there's a pretty big gap. It just shows you how close these 4 players have been in this group. All right, so thus far, it is looking more of a boomy, adding fishing ship, fast castle type build from Repard. But it can be very deceiving with the melee. Like, it looks like you could go fast castle off your resources, you click up to feudal, and then you arrive to feudal age so quickly, you're just not ready yet. This would be a saving grace for Nili, the second dock on the backside, so if he experiences the first wave of galleys or fires or whatever, he can just move his fishing ships. So that's good. I agree with you, Moonman, that it would be so sad if FedEx were to not stay alive at least. I think FedEx has played better than Nili, Repard, Kazva. Like, at least from some of the sets I saw him. But the problem was, like, against Dark, he couldn't finish the games. He was ahead of Dark twice. He could have beaten Dark. Should have beaten Dark at least once. You got to finish the job. Anyways, here's the uptime for Repard. You can kind of see everything's pretty tight with his build. And he is not fast castling off this. Nili might still be able to. But even him, I'm not expecting him to have the food in the bank that he needs. Of course, he's Italian, though, so it's cheaper for him to go up to the next stage. It's 2 docks for Repard. What I've seen from players is they will send 1 galley one direction and 1 galley another direction if going galleys. I think that is a mistake. I think you just pick a side and hope for the best. Your galleys have to be together. Oof. It's fires. All right. He's a long way away from clicking up. But what will probably happen is it'll look like he's late. And it'll be worrying for him and maybe for you guys as well. But essentially, he will be able to play catch up because he can click up so quickly. T90, I enjoyed last TTL season a lot, but this is just so close and competitive. Is it just me? It's not just you. Gold was as well last time, but Gold didn't get as much coverage because Gold was happening at the same time as Platinum. So that's the one big thing we changed this time, is that Gold is before. That way I could cover all these sets. So I really hope people have enjoyed Gold. If anything, like, the League format is better for players in Silver and Gold than it even is for Platinum, right? Like, a lot of the Platinum boys have been... They've been there, done that in tournaments. They played in a lot of events. But it's been really cool to see Gold. I'm more okay with sending galleys to either side like this if it's a fire galley. But if Nili has his timings right, Nili will have enough fire galleys to defend. And so, yeah, this seems pretty well thought out from Nili. This is the build, the fast castle build that Italians have been able to do such a good job with. This is why, like, if you were ever going to have a chance here, you would really need to be up like a minute faster and probably have galleys so you're sniping the fishing ships. I think you just have to leave now. Like, I think this fire galley might even be going the wrong way. He doesn't know Nili has another dock over here. Nili's not actually producing out of that dock, though, which I think he just realized. I think he had forgotten to control group this, in all honesty. Repard might lose this fight here. Yeah, normally the fire that goes down does a little bit of extra damage in the last couple seconds because there's still some flame, but I don't know if that's enough. Watch Nili's HP. Went down to 4 from 6, right? But Nili, you have to hide that. Repard, you have to find that. And Repard finds it. It's not a big deal. 1 for 1. Repard back over here applying some pressure. Nili back here with more fires. Both players on the way to Castle Age. Nili making a transport ship. Repard not making a transport ship yet, but this is where Repard will be in Castle Age faster. And this is an important moment for Nili, and he gets rocked! Oh, he got rocked, and here Repard has to pull back. And the good thing for Nili is he'll kill that ship. He can always save these. No transport ship yet for Repard. Nili will get his repairs in. Repard will back away. Repard's thinking Castle Age, Castle Age, Castle Age. Repard has a lot of his fishing ships over here. Does have some over here, so Nili might be able to find some damage in a second. But Nili transitioning in towards the land. Repard, on the other hand, sold his stone. So Repard's thinking, I want to finish this fast on water, which is a sign that he's maybe not as comfortable, maybe not as used to the meta here on migration. Interesting decision for Nili here because he sees that demo. You would take that trade. You would definitely want this to engage in this position. And then here, like, I feel like Nili should be backing up. Could lose his ship there. Yeah, he's going to lose those ships. He's looking at the fires here, though. That's a fine engagement for Nili. He's 30 seconds off from his own upgrades. Good saves. Could get the repair down if the villagers can make it over. It looks like he's going to get the save there. Also, crucial. Forward dock from Nili. He can just send fires directly into Repard's fishing eco now, and Repard doesn't know about this. This is rough for Repard. This is an amazing strat. Yo is the one I talk about the most from the big names who does it. Nili's like, cheaper dock techs, gill nets, war galley upgrade. Let's go. And monastery going up in the middle. And honestly, the fire could find the transport. GG. No. It's going to go. Oh, man, that would have been awful. Now the villagers are here. And I'm not sure about making the monastery directly next to the dock there. That's an interesting idea. But yeah, all hell is broken loose here in this game. As the scouts will be important against the monks. Nili's going to kill the scout from Repard. And Nili's going to drop a tower next to this monastery. I'm not really sure about that. Is that the right play here? Don't lose your scout. You need your scout. Okay, loses his scout. I mean, tower will make it awkward. Speaking of awkward, there's a whole lot more navy for Nili on this side. Repard will need to land a demo, and it just feels like there's so much more pressure on Repard at the moment. Good job from Nili. Does need to back away with those ships, most likely, though. So, you know, now your monks can't really go this way if you're Repard. But you do have a second TC. And the Repard felt like an instinctual... The tower felt like an instinctual play from Nili. But I'm not sure I'm really in love with that decision. What I do love is that he's killing fishing ships here. And Repard still hasn't noticed that. And I think, you know, being Italians is awesome. But Repard could be killing fishing ships too. There's a lot of blinking, a lot of fighting. A lot of stuff happening. But the Eco KD is 9-1 right now for Nili. Again, not the biggest fan of this tower. Don't think the tower did too much. Curious to see if Nili will get his second town center up and have that be somewhere in the middle, obviously. Nili's actually 2 monasteries right now, and he's going for atonement to convert Repard's monks. That'll be interesting. Also, Repard finally finding some fishing ship kills. Knows he's going to lose his ship, but just wants to kill those fishing ships. Gets enough. Food eco is rough. We do not have any farming eco whatsoever for Repard. He does have those 2 on berries, but I mean, not the best position for him. He's going to get a relic, drop it in the new monastery. Now, will he expect the atonement play from Nili? Because Nili could just snowball this right away and have tons of monks turn this into a siege push. Well, Nili just showed him that possibility. Like, that should tell Repard that that's atonement. And we'll probably see him rush atonement as well. I suppose it would make sense to just research it out of this one. But as bad as the first game looked, it's looking significantly better now for Nili, who is behind economically, which is wild. He is behind. He doesn't have TCs in the middle yet either. But atonement's not that cheap. We might see Repard selling some stone here. Maybe he'll consider some towers. Like, his monks are just hiding now in and around the town centers. Nili has a ram. Oh, I didn't see a siege workshop. Nili's going to try and ram this monastery down, maybe. Or maybe the other one. I mean, he's researching atonement in this one. But Nili, you're also walling it in, so... It feels like the attack is a little bit lacking in punctuality here. Like, the atonement play, if on the back of, you know, a couple siege weapons would have been really strong. I'm not sure I love it. Repard can convert that monk. Nili is also going to just donate a relic to him if that's the case. And here Repard's actually going to go for another conversion. He gets another conversion! And Nili's able to take some back. This is going to get very clowny here, guys. Remember, Nili's got fishing ships. Nili does complete a TC pretty far away from the action here. I didn't like the ram, right? Like, I know that mangonels can be converted from distance, from redemption, but at least force your opponent into redemption is what I'm thinking. It's not every day you see a monk with a relic get converted, but that is how it works. Repard has a villager there, and he's trying to convert this monk, and he gets the monk, and then deletes this monk, which has to have been a mistake. You could have saved that one, dude. So I think Repard just needs to chill out for a second and probably end up building a castle. But he might need to rush that down if Nili's got a mangonel now. The stone count's pretty high for Repard here. He's just waiting on the stone to drop off. Repard hasn't tried to make more ships at all here. It's all been about middle focus. This will be largely a defensive castle, but it does give him time to boom. And Nili's got outposts everywhere. He's got vision throughout this whole area, so he can make the proper decisions. And there is one decision you make after this. And it is a castle of your own, and then Imperial Age if you're Nili. He knows it. Now, it's fragile, though. What gets really fun here is, like, if the castle's in an awkward position, if he doesn't have enough army to support the castle going up, then suddenly this whole thing falls apart. Because Repard has 3 TCs to produce villagers out of, and Repard is invested into more food eco than Nili. So Nili really is relying on these imp timings. And in that series against... in his series against Kasva, he relied on imp timings with monks. But remember, he didn't have the castle up. And then, I mean, thankfully for him, he was able to get the job done in, you know, the long term. But... Whoa, Repard actually... He wants to click up here. He's actually stopped Ville production. There's the castle from Nili. And it's not going up right now, but it will be on its way. Damn, so Repard will be faster. Okay, small thing here. Repard, shoot the outpost with your castle. Shoot them. Look at all the red outposts around his base. Nili sees everything. Like, it's really good from Nili. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say it's a bad move. I'm saying take him out. Don't let him see what you're doing, dude. Nili's also going to dock the sides. He's been doing it over here as well to add fishing ships. Res collected this game's probably very close. Nili's hanging in there with food because of those fishing ships. But Repard has pulled ahead in resources collected. I'd like to see chemistry be a research from Nili because it's cheaper for him with Italians, and his opponent has made some Karambit warriors. And he might want to have something other than just monks. I feel like having hand cannons would be really good. Another option would have been a barracks or two to make some condos, but I don't think condos are very good against castle fire and against the potential of Karambits. We've not seen Sanctity research by Repard, so his monks are just stuck on the base HP of 30. Both players are going to have block printing, so both players will have the monk range. And we do also now have redemption for Repard, so we can convert buildings and siege. Nili's vision will disappear slightly because the outpost will go down. And he gets one Karambit warrior. Right now, it looks like it's going to be a monk war. Monk Trebs. Close game, guys. Really close game. Nili's going to make a barracks here. What a play. This is so good. Does Repard see this? Repard, if he's paying attention, would see it, but something tells me he's not looking. So Nili's like, I put him up against the wall here. We're now going to just raid his base with a couple condos. It's this really nice move. I think Repard might notice that. But he hasn't yet. The barracks will go up. Repard didn't get the best start to the conversions there. Repard also could lose his Treb to Nili's Mangonel. And, I mean, he's got to repair his Treb because Nili's Treb is the one weakening it. I think Nili's done a great job with map control here. He just has to see it through, and he's at the very least safe. No condo production yet. He's backed up to his castle. No Sanctity is really bad. Mangonels should not be taking out monks at this stage. But he just hasn't been able to afford it here, Repard. And now Repard sees the barracks. He's making monks at home as well. How is he going to have the gold for all this? Seems like he might have forgotten that he has redemption. He could have gone for the Mangonel. Conversions coming in. Some for both sides. Nili seems to get the much better conversions here, though. And Nili's raiding with condos. And there's the villager. And Nili has the fishing ships. The Repard really running out of oomph here, of the ability to push. Treb war will be huge, though, because there's really nothing that either player has to contest the Trebs other than their own Trebs. But look at the raids add up. Even if they don't kill much, it's just the idle time. And then it takes Repard's focus away from this. For Nili, you just queue up a unit or two, and then you just focus on this area, right? You send condos in, don't even look at it. Just look at this. Population so close. Nili did lose one of his Trebs. Nili's got more monks on the field, mostly protecting his Treb, of course, but he loses another Treb. If Repard could deal with this somehow, then maybe it's okay. But, I mean, Nili's got the eco. He just continues to make more of them. This is bad for Repard's economy. Really, really bad. And why you tend to see players shift a little bit more focused on the water, even after losing it, is so you are still safe here. He actually has to drop a castle. But where does he even get resources with these villagers? He can't take wood, even. So that is a big win for Nili. Repard's got 5 on food. Oh, there's condos over here as well. And Repard doesn't seem to notice until now. Seems to me, like, with this game, Repard is going to be confirmed to be relegated. Nili will be safe. We'll still have to talk a little bit about what Nili will be shooting for, but Repard needed 3 wins. It's wild. Repard's population's actually higher. I guess because he has so many karambits built up in this castle. You know, maybe there's a chance. I didn't realize he had like 23 karambits and they were all here, and Nili's lost his Trebs. I mean, here, Nili's condos will start to go down eventually. At least Repard can take the farms again. Repard is not dead. If he could push this, Nili could lose everything. And monks are switching sides with conversions. And here come the karambits. What does Nili do about this? I think you back up. But you don't want to back up. Because if you back up, then you could lose your castle. And if you lose your castle, your nerves will really get crazy. And your heart will start to pump. And you'll think, what is happening? But that Mangonel shot. The Mangonel shot, the castle fire's doing so much. Karambits are such a weak unit. All the karambits have disappeared. But, you know, there's still Trebs here firing on the castle. Nili doesn't have any repairs yet. There's also monks from Repard trying to convert Nili's monks, which he can't actually get to because his Trebs are blocking it. This is so intense. And Repard's going to drop another castle here. Repard is not dead yet. He's converting monks. Could he convert the Mangonel? Nili's desperate. The castle's down for Nili. What's happening? Treb goes down for Repard. But Repard's kind of pushing. Nili needs more here. He needs something more. I don't know what that something is. Remember, his fishing economy is probably not the cleanest now. And no way, Nili's going to lose these Trebs as well to the karambits. Oh, no. I think he is. Guys, Nili's falling apart. He's got the pop lead, but he's losing position. Repard could do this. The karambits didn't take out the Treb, though. Nili's repairs hold. Castle here's gotten 6 kills. Nili has the eco lead. He might not recognize that. Well, actually, he's over here. He's been attacking with condos like crazy. He's killed 57 eco in this game. He should recognize that. Repard's got, like, nothing left in the tank. Like, his eco is so bad. It's idle here. It's idle here. Nili just needs enough to take out this castle, take out the Trebs. Honestly, even sniping both of these Trebs with condos would end it. But what a grind. And just like I said in Nili's series against Kazvi, you can see the nerves and you can see how much it means to these guys right now. They're missing some upgrades here or there. tons of tiny little micro movements. Here, this is kind of a funny sight. Looks like maybe a condo got converted. 3 trebs for Repard, all firing on trebs from Nili. Still not seeing a ton from Nili that tells me that he's going to be able to like push this back, but he has at the very least held. He just needs to get like Bodkin arrow and mass more crossbows, but at least the crossbows are being massed now. He's still got an amazing position here. He's still got the potential to raid here. He could take some deep breaths, farm a little bit more at home. Holy Berry villagers. He still has gold available. Yeah, Nili should be fine now. Should be, I think. Because res collected's got to be pretty insane now. Yeah, he's gonna pull ahead, I think. And Repard, you have to push. When your eco looks like this and you've been raided to death, you know your opponent... You can't give your opponent time to stabilize and make the right decisions here. So, right decisions for Nili obviously would be, you know, getting upgrades. As he's now getting upgrades. But, I mean, he's pop capped too. Yeah, now he's adding more ranges. Now he's adding more houses. I think this has done enough for you. You forced Repard into a castle on his starting island. This is not something you need to focus on anymore. Now all your focus goes on to defending this. You just don't want to engage too early. And right now, Nili using his trebs. The trebs have done work against monks. Bam. Another one goes down. Monks aren't cheap. And he's waiting to mass the crossbow numbers here. Because you have to stand next to a treb to convert it with monks. So actually, there's nothing that Repard can do against these trebs. He tried to distract the castle fire with the karambit so he could convert one. Oh, talk about ambitious. I appreciate the style, though. Nili, come on, man. Get Bracer, dude. You know it. You got this. Just get Bracer. His trebs have killed quite a few monks. He's waiting on that Arbalest number now. Moved his trebs forward. Would bomber cannons help? Bomber cannons would help if they both didn't have great monks. So bomber cannons I don't think are the play here. Trebs is actually perfect. Going for bomber cannons would lead to you losing those bomber cannons. The difference here is Nili has the economy to make units of value besides monks and trebs. And Repard barely has the resources to make more monks at this point. Wasn't easy. But Nili's got 4 ranges producing arbs, and Nili should see this game through. And then, I'm curious on how the third game ends up going, because Repard, he's got pride to fight for. But I wonder if he recognizes that he needed the 3-0 today, and if it affects his performance a little bit in Game 3. Ultimately, Nili did a really good job at transitioning towards all the right things you need on this game. Water control, fishing ships. The monk play was pretty interesting, but I think the fast imp was a great call. I love this. Like, this is honestly the type of thing that won him the game. The side raids. The little side raids here. The transport into the raids here. That's the type of thing that allowed him to win this game. Because if Repard was hanging with him. But Repard lost 75 eco in this game. And what did he have? 10 fishing ships? That means he lost 60 villagers in this game. Speaking of eco, Nili's up to 150 eco. And just now getting Bracer. Come on, dude. You got it. You're good. All right. You're fine. I know he's probably really worried right now. He doesn't want to throw this. And he knows he's doing damage here. So he's taking a low-risk approach here with this, as he still wants to mass his arbs. Repard, good with his monks as well. Nili just keeps hearing the Wololos constantly, so... You know, he's thinking he's going to lose his Arbalest to the monks. These trebs, guys, have killed so many monks. It's honestly a great play. He's targeting the monks and not the trebs. And now chemistry's on the way. Yeah, these are the upgrades. Right now is the time for Nili, if he wants to move forward, and he will kill all of this. He's got too much. Repard has 9 monks. He doesn't have 9 monks here, though. He's only got, like, 6. And the Arbalest can move out, take the hill, which means the trebs have to pack up. And if you're packing up with those trebs, you're going nowhere. And Nili can move forward with his own trebs to push this castle, and this game finally ends. A great game. A great game. But when people asked me, like, you know, if the possibility was there for Repard to 3-0, I said definitely it was there. But I felt like it'd be pretty shocking to me if Nili didn't win at least one game here because of the hybrid situation and because is generally good strategy. The execution can struggle at times for us casters, all right? I speak as a player caster myself. The execution sometimes isn't there. The strategy, the preparation is there for Nili, and he got the job done. Loved the outposting, loved the vision. Didn't really touch on the eco he had down here. Repard had no clue that was there. And the little condo raids and the what he was able to accomplish with his water control was awesome. I loved the additional docks and the fishing ships created. He fished a lot in this game. And it was a little shaky here, right? Like, this whole area was very shaky, but everything else eventually added up. And he was able to get the job done. People were asking, why no Cannon Galleon? I mean, if upgrades are late on Arbalest, and this is your main push, and you're still not getting those upgrades, it's because of stress. Creating here, creating here, creating here. Creating units, adding ranges, adding houses, cycling through the TCs, adding farms. That's just all some of the things they've probably done, or Nili probably did, over the last minute or two. Then you got to think about Cannon Galleon, and it's just one more thing on the mind. So Nili didn't need it. Repard wouldn't have benefited from it because Nili already had docks to make Navy to kill that. So I agree, Cannon Galleon would be a good addition if you're really able to think clearly. But sometimes things get a little bit fogged up and a little bit muddy amongst the aggression. Great game. Scores 1-1 now. And I'm going to go to the odds sheet before we start the next one because I need to remind myself of the situation. I think Nili still got good probability to end up being third place, but it's not confirmed if he loses 1-2, or I guess loses 2-1. So Repard Nili. Okay, yeah, so basically as it stands, if Repard wins this final game, Nili's 75% odds for third, but could be passed by Kasva or FedEx. And they could take third from him. Nili is safe, which is huge. He is not going to be relegated, which is a good thing in and of itself. If Nili wins this game, he cannot be passed by Kasva or FedEx. I believe that someone would have to tie him. And I think both Kasva and FedEx lost to Nili 2-1. Wait, no. I'm not sure. I think FedEx beat Nili, but with the amount of sets won, which is the first tiebreak, Nili would win the tiebreak 3-2 at the very least. So yeah, that's the situation. Unfortunately for Repard, he's out. All right, so just to repeat myself on a couple things here. It is not confirmed that Nili is going into the third place spot. The odds are likely that he will fall into the third place spot. It is not confirmed, though. He would need to win this to confirm he is in third place in Group D. He is, however, safe, so that's good for him. The previous season's gold, he was relegated, and the final game, it was another, do or die series for him, and I think he lost that series 2-1. So, happiness for Nili on that. For Repard, unfortunately, he is now out. There is no way that he can save himself. Winning this game, though, would make things more difficult for Nili and would shake things up in the groups and would also give him $20. So, $20 is $20 and, he could have that let's ruin Nili's moment type of feeling. But also, show people again what he's capable of. I think game 1 he showed what he's capable of. Game 2 it was messy. I think there he showed maybe he's not quite as suited towards the balanced water/land play you need in migration. So, Gurjaras for Nili, a civ that he chose second on his draft. The first civilization he chose was Italians, which we just saw him win with. And Gurjaras, I get why people pick them on this map, because a lot of players play in towards Cav on this map and go Knights. And Gurjaras can make camels. But I've seen camels on this map before, and I feel like I don't know what Gurjaras do if the Magyar player goes into pikeman defense, right? Because then, how are you supposed to do damage when you have a camel civilization that can't make knights? Like, how are you killing villagers in Castle Age? I think it gets awkward, and I think playing into Knight Pikeman, assuming everything goes well, I think is actually fairly realistic. And that would force the Gurjaras then onto stone to go for the chakrams later. And that's difficult to get to, because you need lots of castles. But yeah, obviously, like, in theory, of course, Gurjaras have, if they rely on their camels, their Shravamshas, their chakrams, they have the answer to kind of everything. Yeah, Shravamshas could raid well, so that could be the approach, right? Like, sending Shravamshas into different areas. But I personally would actually prefer the Magyars here. But I am a knight player. Like, I played Nili in a tournament where I was Slavs versus Gurjaras. And in the tournament, you gave your opponent civilizations. And I gave him Gurjaras. Actually, a fairly epic game. But, you know, for me, it was just like the Pike-Knight combination. Him, it was camels and chakrams. Not Land Madness, though. It's a very different situation. So I'd expect 19 pop to be fairly easy here for the Magyars with all the deer pushed in. I think it's probably 19 pop versus 18 pop from the Gurjaras, but I actually see Loom in queue right now for Repard, and I saw it for Nili, so we're both going to try 18 population. Nili's starting wood situation is a little bit worse. Like, this chunk of wood seems to be a bit better than this chunk of wood. I prefer... Don't clip this out of context, but I would prefer a longer, flatter wood line versus a nugget-sized wood. I think that this is easier to utilize and expand your villagers on, whereas this becomes harder to wall and pretty easy to overchop. Is Nili going to go camels? Nah, he's going to go archers, right? One thing I was putting on my list, my mental list of things to bring up about the Gurjaras, is that you can make camels in Feudal Age, which could be kind of funky to try. Is he just going to collect 20 golds? How much is the camel scout, guys? Well, it's not over 70 gold. I think he wants to make one camel scout, or he's got a really screwed up archer build. I'm going to opt for really screwed up archer builds. Yeah, this archer build is not good. Okay. Because he will not have the wood for the range, so something went awry here. Not horrible, right? Like, I think the barracks is actually going to be slightly delayed for Repard. And then the stable may be slightly delayed as well. But I think that's what happens when you try and go 18 pop. I feel like 19 pop, even though you can click up on 18 pop because of the extra food, 19 pop, you can get all the timings right. There's no way he still goes stable, right? There's no way. Okay, here we go. Waiting for the wood. Archer range. Archer range, okay. Stables going up there for Repard. Scouts are cheaper for the Magyars. And then you also get the forging upgrade for free in Feudal Age. So Magyars have a lot more potential to do damage. Repard is not left to see his opponent yet, which is very weird to me. And Nili got housed. So he's getting Town Watch. But if you're ever going to get a map, get Town Watch early on a map, I think Land Madness would be one of them. But honestly, like, pretty rough game here for Nili as far as Dark Age execution is concerned. Spearman there, going to see the camel. Repard just trying to push in more deer. Playing very greedy here so he can get as much food as possible. He's going to use the new scout to scout. At the end of the day, he's probably thinking scout numbers, right? So scout numbers can be huge. Nili did not open very offensively here with the civilization he picked very early. Repard looking for Nili, sees the range with the flag, knows his opponent will go for archers. Sometimes you see players out of range now to go skirmishers. I say screw it. You're Magyars. He doesn't agree. But you're Magyars. Just make enough scouts to deal with it all. But Nili's going to go 2 spears, 2 archers. And, you know, it's kind of awkward to have the numbers to deal with the 2 spear, 2 archer combination. Especially if Nili could squeeze in fletching. I could see this army possibly getting some harass in. The scout's looking for this, tracking this, seeing if Nili's paying attention, and he is. Repard, though, will have skirms in the mix as well, which should be able to push all of this back. In fact, he might just use his skirms defensively at the moment, which is a little risky. I'd like to see him maybe try and stick around to kill this. Because if Nili uses his... If this goes down and then Nili uses his camel against the skirms, I could see the skirm defense being a problem. Nili will now know the scouts aren't here. Nili's going to move his way in here. And again, I think if Repard is the scouts here, he clears it up. But now Nili is able to maybe focus down the spear. What? Where did the other scouts go? Okay, scouts went underneath Nili's TC. This just got really messy. The other scouts are coming home right now. And honestly, I think Repard came out on top in that because Nili had quite a bit of idle time there. And Nili didn't get any damage done here. Nili's got 7 spears, but now his opponent has skirmishers, which can kill the spears. And he would need to have the food eco to go scouts. And he doesn't really have the food eco to go scouts right now. I think Nili's in big trouble here. Turn around, why don't you, spearman? Because you're going to die to skirmishers immediately. Yep, Repard baiting him. Repard now even getting armor for his archers. Repard has played very clean here. He's had better execution the whole way through. He does have to worry about this camel. And Nili embracing his inner MBL. Just massing tons of spearmen here. You lose some spearmen, you make more spearmen. But Repard's micro has been sick. And now, you know, you've got enough skirms to neutralize this. I think you just add more scouts, right? That's what I'm thinking for Repard. It is interesting how many sheep he had. Now he's transitioned to farms really nicely. Archers from Nili haven't all gone down yet. So with archers and spearmen can kill the scouts, but there's no easy answer for him for the skirms yet until now. He's got a stable. Repard loses a scout. Repard killing some archers and some spearmen, though. He's going to kill another spear. Going to kill another spear. We'll kill another one soon here as well. Repard takes the fight because he knows the spearman will die. There's still a spearman in there, though, and the camel scout as well. And honestly, I think Nili will be okay with that. It's a great patience from Nili to fall back that whole way. I think Repard just got a little too antsy, a little too early. I'm looking at the amount on food for Repard at the moment. I know he's going to take these berries, but these villagers are all idle. The Scout Edition came in just at the right time there from Nili. Very well played. Pretty good farming setup for him. And he's pushed the skirms all the way back. I thought myself that Repard was going to be able to take a really good fight in that engagement. I think it's honestly one of those slightly better micro or 1 or 2 extra scouts, and the whole fight could have snowballed the other way. Why not more camels? They produce very slowly. Could someone tell me the feudal age production difference between the camel and the scout? I think that's the one main thing I'd think of, is they produce slowly, and they cost gold. Also, you know, he might not want to waste gold units against spearmen if the Magyars had the spearmen. Nice find there from Nili, though. Went right to those berries. But now he doesn't have the defense. But Repard doesn't have spearmen here. And Repard just happy to fight it off with Vils because he doesn't have any other choice. I'm pretty sure he has spearmen on the way. But, you know, Nili finding the first villager kills of the game. Good stuff. And Camel still getting some good value. But here's Repard. So you can't kill villagers quickly with skirms, but you can eventually kill them. And you can whittle down army here with this presence. So Repard's right back in it. He killed all those Vils. And Repard's all over Nili's woodline, which Nili hasn't towered. Nili needs more scouts. He needs to use the archers versus the spears, and then the scouts versus the skirms like last time. But Repard is keeping his spearmen behind. Oh, that's really good patience, too. And now he needs to pull them to the side. Yeah, this micro is really good. But Nili's just going to try and force the issue here to kill the spears, but he loses a lot of archers. Can you imagine if Repard won that? Like, the intensity of this game, it's already really, really high intensity, but can you imagine how ridiculous it would be if Nili had lost game 2 and we're looking at this right now? This is why I said a 3-0 was possible for Repard. All the games have been really, really tight. I mean, actually, the first one was a stomp. But, like, even this one's been really close. And it's looking better and better for Repard, who gets in with the scouts, but he recognizes the scouts are weak, so he doesn't really want to like, force anything. He's happy to just hold this position. Nili's falling apart. Would be really good for whoever wins the FedEx or Casva series if Nili does not end up getting this win, because they have a chance to get the 3rd place spot in the group. Oh, Nili's getting destroyed now. The spearmen, the skirmishers, the scouts, everything just destroying Nili. And while it looks like he baited Repard in to the scouts earlier, and like he was going to be able to push back, he really just lacked the production here. And he lacked the micro. Every engagement from Repard has looked better. So it's 48 seconds for training time on a fuel-age camel, and it's 30 seconds for a scout. Okay. So I think that, in combination with the other thing we mentioned, that camels just cost more resources, I think that's a big reason why. Repard sees the tower. We'll just move along now to other areas of Nili's economy. But Nili is... Like, how are you supposed to catch up at this point? There's 7 Magyar scouts. As long as Repard doesn't make any big mistakes to overextend himself here, I think Repard takes this to a victory. 3 minutes of idle time for Nili's town center. As I said before, I think strategically, Nili's very strong. But I think, you know, the execution aspect of the game, obviously the most difficult aspect, one of the most difficult aspects of Age of Empires 2. There's a lot of players in gold that could possibly out-execute. Nili had tons of strategic wins in his gold groups, which is why he's going to stay alive. And here he is trying to fight his way out of it with all these bills. And honestly, wasn't too bad. He is making camel scouts now, by the way. But the idle time is not good. The idle time's rough. Can't wait to look at the stats and see, like, the probabilities and see what Casva / FedEx need to get in a result to be able to pass Nili now and get to 3rd. So many weak bills. You could see he got desperate and he queued camels, and you can also see how long it's taken and how the scout numbers could just take out a camel anyways. Feels like it should be over from here, and the GG's called. All right, so honestly, good showing from Repard to close out the group. I'm sad for the guy that he has to be relegated, but unfortunately for him, that is the situation here. A quick look at the resources collected this game will show you the control that Repard had. Again, I think our jars are too defensive. It's way too defensive a strategy. We didn't even see it get to go to Castle Age, but I think you've got to think offense, scouts into knights, pikemen. You have to think aggression. Not that Nili wasn't aggressive in this game, but that's just my preference on the civs. Magyar's very clear. It's like, hey, play open, play aggressive. He had 3 stables. He was going crazy. Let's look at what would have to happen in the final series then. Look at the probabilities, which has been getting more and more interesting as the set's almost complete. It's tomorrow that Casva and FedEx happens, by the way. Community game fans are going to like this, but I'm actually canceling community games. I can't miss Titans League tomorrow. We're going to push back community games. Sorry, don't get upset with me, but I got to cast that series live. But yeah, so Repard 1-2-1. Again, the order here doesn't matter, so don't nitpick on that. All right, so Nili ends with 6 wins. Repard ends with 5 wins. It's crazy. Just if you would have got one more win at any other point, it's a different conversation for him. And I don't think Casva or FedEx can tie Nili because Nili beats them on tiebreak. So we know whoever wins between Casva and FedEx will stay alive. But I think a 2-1 isn't enough for them to get playoffs, correct? Yeah, 2-1 for FedEx isn't enough. And then a 2-1 for Casva also isn't enough. Whereas a 3-0 for either of them puts them into the playoffs and then Nili into 4th place. So, yeah, that's the situation here in Group D. It's fairly simple from here. Repard is out. The loser of Casva and FedEx will also be relegated, which would be pretty big because I think both of those players they had the potential to get up higher in this group, but they've struggled at times. I'm personally leaning towards FedEx, and I also think FedEx has the potential to 3-0 Kasva. I really do think that. Kasva showed some weakness on closed maps, which is FedEx's specialty. I think FedEx is good enough on open maps to get wins against Kasva too. So my prediction before that series actually happens is a 2-1 or a 3-0 for FedEx there, who I think has played really solid throughout TTL Gold.